Welcome to Hidden Truths, the place where what you thought was private gets exposed, and the world you trusted reveals its hidden codes. Here we don't just ask questions, we ask the ones you're not supposed to. The ones that make you pause, that whisper in your mind long after the video ends. And today's question is the most personal of all. Are your thoughts really your own? You see, we all believe our minds are the last sanctuary, untouched, untracked, unbought. But what if that sanctuary has already been breached? What if your thoughts, your desires, your impulses have been harvested, packaged, and sold before you even fully became aware of them? Today's topic is called the monetized mind, how your thoughts became someone else's property. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain on a silent revolution, one where your every scroll, every pause, every flicker of hesitation is being recorded and turned into data, where platforms don't just predict your next move, they create it, where algorithms don't just know your preferences, they shape them. This is the rise of cognitive capitalism, where your attention is currency, your emotions are assets, and your identity is a product, engineered, optimized, and sold to the highest bidder. And the scariest part? Most of your beliefs aren't really yours anymore. They're reflections of a digital world you didn't build, but that now builds you. So if you're ready to find out who's really thinking inside your head, stay with us, because the truth you're about to hear will change the way you see every decision you've ever made. The illusion of mental privacy. You were taught that your mind is yours, that no matter what you say out loud, no matter what you post, search, or click, your thoughts are sacred, untouchable, private. It's the last fortress we believe can't be breached. No matter how much of your life is exposed, your inbox, your camera, your GPS, your browsing history, you still hold on to the idea that your inner world is safe. But that belief is a carefully maintained illusion, and it's breaking. Thoughts don't need to be spoken to be sold. We live in a world where silence no longer means invisibility. You don't need to type a word, say a phrase, or search a term, because the system is already watching your pauses, your dwell time, your pupil dilation, your micro-reactions. Hesitation, curiosity, anxiety, surprise. These aren't just human moments anymore. They're data points. They're products. Every time you stop to read a caption, every moment you linger on a photo or rewatch a second of a video, you're sending signals. Signals that machines are trained to interpret faster than your own awareness. You are leaking more than you realize. You may not remember what you clicked yesterday, but the system does. It remembers the late-night searches, the doom scrolls, the way your attention trembled when that ad popped up. It knows when you were sad. It knows when you were vulnerable. It knows what kind of content makes your breathing slow, your eyes widen, your heart beat faster. This isn't science fiction. This is what your feed already uses. Real-time behavior prediction, real-time emotional mapping. You are not interacting with platforms anymore. You are training them. Every tap, every swipe, every scroll is part of a behavioral data set you're helping to build without consent, without understanding. The wall between internal and external is disappearing. We used to believe there was a clear boundary between the outside world and our inner thoughts. But the rise of emotion-aware AI, predictive modeling and algorithmic nudging is erasing that line. It's no longer about what you say. It's about what your behavior implies. It's about what you're likely to think next. And in this new economy, your attention isn't just valuable, it's extractable. Your mind is no longer a private room, it's a marketplace. If your thoughts can be shaped, are they truly yours? Here's the uncomfortable truth. If someone can predict your next idea, if someone can steer your next opinion, then maybe what you believe isn't truly belief. It's reaction. It's conditioning. What happens to free will when invisible hands are feeding you choices before you can question them? What happens to thought when it's guided by systems you don't see, don't understand, and can't escape? This is the beginning of a deeper conversation. A confrontation not just with tech, but with your own autonomy. Because the moment you believe your mind is safe is the moment you stop noticing how it's being rewritten. And now that we've pulled the first thread, let's keep going.
Surveillance Capitalism 101. What if I told you that your data is not just collected, but exploited? Not to serve you, but to serve those who profit from predicting, directing, and monetizing your behavior. Welcome to the age of surveillance capitalism. A new economy, a quiet empire, one where your life isn't just observed, it's engineered. The birth of a new business model. Surveillance capitalism didn't begin with malice, it began with convenience. Google wanted to serve better ads. Facebook wanted to personalize your experience. They needed data. You gave it. At first, it was harmless. Searches, likes, page views. But then, they realized something far more powerful. They could not only understand behavior, they could predict it. And once prediction was possible, influence became inevitable. Prediction becomes profit. Your habits, your shopping tendencies, moods, bedtime routines, insecurities, they all feed into models. And those models become maps. Maps that corporations, governments, and advertisers use to forecast your next action before you take it. It's not just about what you've done. It's about what you'll likely do next. Every time you click Accept All Cookies, you open the door to a predictive machine learning system that watches your every move to forecast your future and shape it. Because in this economy, certainty equals profit. Behavioral surplus. You are worth more than you know. There is a term for this hidden data you didn't know you were giving away. Behavioral surplus. It's everything beyond what you willingly offer. It's the click you didn't make, the content you hovered over, the pause before you swiped, the pattern in your sleep, your typing speed, your walking pace. These invisible signals are vacuumed into complex data sets, trained to recognize patterns faster than your brain can process them. You didn't give it, you didn't consent to it, but it was taken, automatically, silently, continuously. And it's being sold. Prediction becomes control. Here's the disturbing part. Prediction alone wasn't enough. These platforms realized that if they could predict your behavior, they could influence it. Not just show you what you already want, but gradually teach you what to want next. Not just understand how you feel, but trigger those feelings at will. The game changed. It wasn't about reflecting reality. It was about designing it. And this is the true power of surveillance capitalism.
Behavioral modification at scale. Invisible, seamless, profitable. You are not the customer. You are the product. You might think, well, it's just ads. That doesn't affect me. But this goes far beyond shopping. Your worldview, your politics, your fears, your desires, your identity is being shaped by systems whose only goal is to maximize engagement, not truth, not well-being, not freedom. In surveillance capitalism, you are not the customer. You are the product. And your mind is being mined. This isn't paranoia. It's business. It's the most profitable business model in history, built on the raw material of your inner world. So the next time you open your phone and feel like something just knows what you want, ask yourself this: is it helping you, or is it helping itself?
Predictive feeds and manufactured desires. You open your phone, you scroll through your feed, and within seconds, something catches your eye. A headline that sparks outrage, a video that hooks your curiosity, a product you didn't know you wanted, but now feels necessary. You didn't go looking for it, it found you. But here's the question no one wants to ask. Did you choose that content, or did it choose you? From prediction to persuasion. At first, social media was reactive. You interacted, it responded. Now, it's predictive, feeding you what you're most likely to click, what you're most likely to watch, what you're most likely to crave. And once it learned how to predict you, it learned how to shape you. The algorithm doesn't guess, it designs. Let's be clear, your feed isn't random. It's not neutral. It's not even a mirror of your interests. It's a machine-generated narrative, crafted specifically to generate behavior. The algorithm doesn't simply show you what's popular, it shows you what will make you act, engage, feel, buy, believe. And over time, your preferences begin to shift, not because you changed, but because the system trained you to. You're not being informed, you're being shaped. We like to think we're in control, that our tastes, opinions, and desires come from within. But when every suggestion you see has been selected to optimize engagement, you are no longer exploring freely. You are being guided, curated, conditioned. And the line between what you genuinely want and what you've been made to want begins to blur until it disappears entirely. Desire on demand. Want to know how powerful predictive feeds are? They can make you hungry without food, lonely without isolation, angry without cause. Because they know the triggers. They know what images raise your heartbeat, what stories make you comment, what colors make you stop scrolling, what sounds keep you watching. And so your feed becomes a psychological slot machine, designed not just to reflect your mood, but to create it. You think you're scrolling for information, but you are being pulled into a script, written by someone else, to serve goals that aren't yours. The illusion of choice. We live in an age where choice feels infinite. Millions of videos, thousands of posts, endless products. But here's the truth. You are rarely choosing from everything. You are choosing from what you're shown. And what you're shown is what the system believes will keep you trapped longest, regardless of what it does to your mental health, your beliefs, or your sense of reality. Your desires are no longer organic. They're not born from within. They're delivered to you in 15-second loops, infinite scrolls, and echo chamber aesthetics. When you can't stop watching, ask why. The moment you feel addicted to your feed, entranced by your timeline, hooked on the next suggested for you, stop. Ask yourself,
Do I want this? Or have I been taught to want it? Because predictive algorithms don't just respond to what you like, they manufacture what you like. You are no longer the author of your attention. You are the reader of someone else's design. And when your desires are manufactured, your freedom becomes fiction. Let's go deeper. Algorithmic conditioning. You think you're browsing, exploring, choosing. But the truth is far more disturbing. You're being trained, conditioned, reinforced, shaped, one scroll, one click, one tiny dopamine hit at a time. Welcome to the Skinner box. In the 1940s, behavioral psychologist B.F. Skinner placed pigeons in a box with a lever. Every time they pressed it, food would drop. Sometimes it came, sometimes it didn't. But over time, those pigeons became obsessed with pressing that lever, hoping for the reward, even when none came. Sound familiar? Now replace the pigeon with yourself. Replace the lever with your phone. And replace the food pellet with likes, notifications, content suggestions, or a viral post that just gets you. That's not a metaphor, it's a blueprint. You are living inside a psychological machine, and the lever is in your pocket. The science of addiction is now a product feature. Tech companies hire behavioral scientists not to help you break free, but to keep you hooked. They understand how to manipulate dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. They've studied your routines, your boredom patterns, your emotional weak spots, and now they use that data to create environments that reward randomness, novelty, and endless possibility. A new video, a new message, a new like, a new ad just for you. Every pull of the algorithmic lever might give you something great, or nothing at all. And that's what makes it irresistible. You are not just using the algorithm, it is using you. Each time you interact, the algorithm learns. Each time it learns, it adjusts. And each time it adjusts, it pulls you deeper, closer to what keeps you watching, what keeps you tapping, what keeps you emotionally vulnerable. You don't notice it happening because it doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like entertainment. It feels like fun. It feels like you making a choice. But you're not. Not fully. You're responding to digital conditioning, reinforced through repetition, emotional priming, and invisible feedback loops. Every behavior becomes a cue. You stayed up late last night, scrolling. The algorithm noted it. You hovered over a breakup video. It filed that away. You skipped a motivational clip, but rewatched a video that made you cry. Now your feed shifts. More emotional triggers, more late-night content, more just one more suggestions. Not because it cares, not because it understands, but because it works. Your behavior is the raw material, and your mind is the experiment. From preference to programming. It starts with a suggestion, then another, then 10 more, and slowly your preferences begin to change. Not because you meant to change them, but because exposure changes behavior. See something often enough, feel something often enough, and your brain rewires itself around it. This is algorithmic conditioning, a digital form of Pavlov's dog, where triggers, cues, and responses are programmed into you without your permission and often without your awareness. Your identity is being trained. The longer you engage, the clearer the system's goal becomes, not just to show you content, but to create a person who responds to that content. It doesn't just care what you like, it cares who you're becoming. Because a predictable user is profitable. An emotionally triggered user is monetizable. And a user who can't stop coming back, that's the jackpot. You think you're free, but you're being taught to crave, to react, to obey, not with force, but with rewards. You're not just inside the app is inside you. And that leads us to the next truth, perhaps the most chilling of all. You are the product, but also the experiment. You've probably heard the phrase by now, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. But that idea is outdated. It's no longer just about being sold. Now, you're being tested. Not only are you the product being bought and sold on digital shelves, you are also the subject of countless invisible experiments, real-time, continuous, and often without your knowledge. And the question they're asking isn't just, what will you do next? It's, how can we make you do it? The age of A/B testing on your emotions. Behind every post, every ad, every suggested video, there's a hidden fork in the road. Maybe you saw version A, someone else saw version B. The difference? A headline, a color, a thumbnail, a comment placement. And what they're watching for is your reaction. Which one made you scroll slower? Which one made you click? Which one made you angry enough to comment? Multiply that by billions of users, trillions of interactions, and what do you get? An emotional laboratory the size of the human race. You're not choosing, you're being tested. You might think, this is just marketing, this is just optimization. But what happens when the thing being optimized is you? Your patience, your joy, your outrage, your beliefs. Not because they care about who you are, but because they care about what works, what sells, what keeps you engaged. And what works isn't always what's good for you. In fact, what works is often what breaks you. Invisible experiments, visible consequences. In 2012, Facebook ran a now infamous experiment. They secretly altered the emotional content of users' news feeds. One group saw more positive posts, another saw more negative ones. The result? People's posts changed to match what they were shown. Think about that. Your mood, your behavior, your digital personality can be manipulated without your awareness. And that was over a decade ago. Today, the experiments haven't stopped. They've just become more subtle, more personal, more automated, and more frequent. You are the training data and the outcome. Every scroll you make trains the system further. But it doesn't just learn from you, it learns on you. Every time it tests a new type of video, a new content loop, a new outrage tactic, you are the guinea pig. And whether you watch, skip, like, or rage quit, you are feeding a machine that grows smarter, faster, and more persuasive with every breath you take inside the digital world. This is not a neutral system. It's not built to help you. It's built to observe you, influence you, reshape you, and then start all over again. An experiment with no ethics board. In science, experiments on humans require consent, oversight, ethical review. But in the digital world, there is no ethics board, no opt-in forms, no warnings, just I agree buttons you don't remember pressing and policies you've never read. And even if you did, you wouldn't be able to stop it because the experiment is the platform itself and your participation isn't optional anymore. You're not just influenced, you're rewritten. Imagine waking up every day inside a simulation that subtly edits who you are. That's not science fiction. That's your timeline, your recommendations, your For You page, a mirror that doesn't reflect, but rewrites. And the worst part? It does it so well, you start to believe that the version it shows you is you. This is the next evolution of control, not through force, not through fear, but through subtle, seamless, silent experimentation. And when your thoughts, behaviors, and even emotions become test results in a system that monetizes your mind, how much of you still belongs to you? Cognitive capitalism, the brain as a marketplace. What happens when your thoughts become valuable? Not to you, but to them, to the companies watching, the systems tracking, the investors speculating, the algorithms learning. Welcome to cognitive capitalism, a new economic model where the raw material is not oil or gold or labor, but your attention, your emotion, and your thought. The final frontier of capitalism, your inner life. Industrial capitalism mined the earth. Data capitalism mined your behavior. Now cognitive capitalism mines your mind. It doesn't need your money to function. It needs your focus. It needs your feelings. It needs your predictable reaction to carefully shaped triggers. And so, your inner world has become a marketplace. Your mental space is no longer private terrain. It's a field of extraction. Every thought, a product. Every reaction, a transaction. Every desire, an opportunity to sell. You don't just have thoughts. You now generate value. Cognitive capitalism doesn't wait for your consent. It doesn't knock. It penetrates. It measures. It monetizes. It sees your anxiety and offers a cure for a price. It senses your loneliness and recommends a stranger for a swipe. It detects your boredom and floods you with distractions for hours. But the value isn't in solving your problem. It's in keeping you in the loop, in keeping your mind open, not for exploration, but for exploitation. Attention is the new currency. Emotion is the new oil. The longer you stay, the more money they make. The more intensely you react, the more precise the targeting becomes. That's why the system doesn't care if you're informed, healed, or fulfilled. It only cares that you're hooked. Because in cognitive capitalism, conflict equals engagement, outrage equals retention, and vulnerability equals profit. They don't just want your data. They want your doubt. They want your hesitation. They want that moment you're unsure, because that's when you're most persuadable. The human brain becomes programmable infrastructure. This is no longer just about business. This is about infrastructure. Your mind is now an integrated part of the digital supply chain, a programmable endpoint in a self-optimizing system, a node in a value network that extracts, analyzes, and feeds on your cognition. It's not about who you are. It's about how predictable you are, how suggestible you are, how profitable your next thought could be. You are the mine, and your mind is the ore. Imagine this. You wake up, open your phone, and instantly, your attention is under auction. Brands bidding for your focus, voices battling to shape your mood, influencers engineered to gain your trust, news designed to hijack your belief system. And none of this is about truth. It's about conversion, engagement, extraction. They mine your attention like oil from the ground. They drill into your fears, they fracture your peace, and they package your reaction as value. When your mind becomes monetizable, it stops being yours. This is the cost no one told you about. When you surrendered your data, you didn't just trade privacy, you traded ownership. You allowed the systems around you to turn your mind into a digital commodity. Your patterns became property. Your cognition became capital. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you lost the ability to tell the difference between what you think and what you've been taught to think. The system doesn't need your mind to grow. It needs it to stay open, available, unprotected. Because in cognitive capitalism, your mind isn't just influenced, it's owned. And the scariest part? You never noticed it happening. Emotional data mining. Your thoughts can be vague. Your behavior can be misread. But your emotions? They are raw, immediate, unfiltered. They reveal who you are even before you do. And in the digital age, that vulnerability isn't sacred. It's monetized. Feelings are no longer private. They're profitable. You don't have to say you're sad. You don't have to admit you're angry. You don't even need to know it yourself. Because the systems watching you, they already know. They know through your tone of voice, through your facial expressions, through your typing rhythm, through the way your eyes hesitate on certain images. This isn't theory. This is already happening in emotion-aware cameras, biometric sensors, voice detection systems, and sentiment analysis algorithms on every major platform. And every time you feel, they feel the opportunity. Emotions as behavioral currency. Anger makes you comment. Fear makes you click. Loneliness makes you stay. Insecurity makes you buy. Your emotions are the most valuable data you produce because they bypass logic. They override hesitation. They drive action. And in a world driven by engagement metrics, emotion is the fuel that powers the entire machine. But here's the dark truth. You think you're just reacting, but in reality, you're being emotionally farmed. You're emotionally profiled. There is a psychological fingerprint behind everything you do online. What colors make you feel safe? What sounds make you nostalgic? What types of videos make you cry, even when you pretend you're not watching closely? Every emotional response is tagged, logged, indexed, and fed into models that know when to nudge you, when to interrupt you, when to push you toward a specific action without ever seeming forceful. It's not manipulation through logic. It's not coercion through facts. It's influence through feeling. And feelings, once mapped, can be weaponized. The algorithm doesn't want you happy. It wants you engaged. Many people assume the system wants to make you feel good, but that's not true. The system doesn't care if you're inspired or miserable. It only cares if you respond. In fact, negative emotions often outperform positive ones. Anger spreads faster than joy. Outrage fuels more clicks than contentment. Fear holds your gaze longer than peace ever could. So what does the algorithm do? It learns to trigger you, to prod your insecurities, to stir your unresolved pain, to push the exact button that keeps you coming back, even when it hurts. Emotional labor becomes algorithmic labor. Here's something terrifying. Your feelings are now labor. Your sadness trains the system. Your excitement teaches it what works. Your heartbreak is just another data set. And in return, you get more content designed to deepen the pattern, more stories that mirror your wounds, more suggestions that look like comfort, but are actually control. The system doesn't heal. It loops. It traps. It sustains itself by keeping you feeling, not free. from empathy to exploitation. What was once the most sacred part of being human, emotion, is now the most extracted. You are not crying alone. You are not anxious in silence. You are not grieving in private. You are being watched, and your emotions are being calculated for their ability to generate clicks, conversions, and engagement. It's no longer about what you feel. It's about how valuable your feelings are to someone else. Your emotional truth has become someone else's revenue stream. And once your emotions are no longer yours, what part of you is left to protect? When identity is engineered, who are you? That question used to have depth. It used to be a journey, a process, a discovery. But now, in the age of algorithms, predictive feeds, and emotional profiling, who you are is no longer something you uncover. It's something that is fed to you, shaped around you, and reflected back to you until you believe it. And once you believe it, they win. You are no longer forming your identity. You are absorbing one. From the moment you create a profile, the system begins building your persona, not based on who you are, but on what you click, what you linger on, what you avoid, what you consume without thinking. Over time, this data forms a digital shadow, a version of you, optimized for monetization. And that version is what the system feeds, not your real self, not your potential, but your most predictable self. Because in this world, unpredictability is inefficient, and authenticity is unprofitable. The algorithm feeds the illusion of self-discovery. You think you're finding your style, your taste, your voice, your worldview. But what if all you're really doing is choosing from a pre-curated set of options that were never meant to free you, only to funnel you? You're not discovering, you're being guided. Each click doesn't just express who you are, it limits who you can become. And slowly, your identity calcifies, not from within, but from a series of choices you didn't realize were never fully yours. The death of fluid identity. Human beings are meant to evolve, to shift, to contradict themselves, to change their minds. But the algorithm hates inconsistency. It needs you to stay in your lane. It needs you to fit into a box. It needs you to be algorithmically stable. So it rewards repetition. It shows you more of what you've seen. It trains you to stay consistent with your past self, even if that self is outdated, broken, or untrue. And so you become a fixed point in a machine that does not care about your growth, only your pattern. You are being carved by your own reflection. What happens when you stare at a mirror long enough? You start to believe that's all there is, that what you see is what you are. But your feed is not a mirror. It's a hall of mirrors, curved, distorted, manipulated. And yet you trust it. You believe it knows you. You let it define you. You let it tell you what kind of person you are, what kind of life you should live, what kind of future you should desire. And piece by piece, scroll by scroll, your identity is built outside of you, then installed within you. Personalization becomes imprisonment. We were promised personalization. We thought it meant freedom, but instead, we were handed prisons made of our own preferences. Curated content, recommended products, tailored ideologies, all designed to comfort you, all designed to trap you. Because once your identity is fixed, once your worldview is shaped, once your digital you is complete, you are easier to sell to, easier to influence, easier to predict. And that's the goal. Not your truth, not your authenticity, but your compliance. You're not the architect of your identity anymore. You're the outcome of a system that rewards conformity, amplifies bias, and punishes change. And the worst part? It does all this under the illusion that you're making your own choices, that you are yourself. But if that self is built on patterns chosen by machines, shaped by emotion-driven algorithms, and limited by invisible boundaries, what part of that identity still belongs to you?
Free will in the age of influence. Do you feel free? That's not a rhetorical question. It's the most important question of your life. Because if your decisions are predictable, if your emotions are programmable, if your beliefs can be influenced before you even form them, then what is freedom? What is free will in a world where your next thought has already been forecasted by a machine? The myth of autonomy in a predictive world. We've always believed in the sovereignty of the self, that no matter how chaotic the world gets, our inner compass, our will, our choices belong to us. But in a system that knows your next move before you do, is your will still free, or is it just an illusion? Because if you're shown a specific post at the exact moment you're emotionally vulnerable, and you react exactly how the system expected you to, was that really your choice, or was it a result that was engineered? The quiet erosion of freedom. Free will doesn't disappear overnight. It erodes quietly. Not by taking away your choices, but by overwhelming you with the illusion of choice. Thousands of options, endless content, infinite scroll, but all of it is pre-selected, pre-ranked, pre-optimized, not for truth, not for growth, but for reaction. You think you're choosing, but you're reacting. You think you're exploring, but you're being steered. And when every path you walk has been algorithmically carved, are you really walking freely, or are you being walked through a maze you didn't build? When freedom becomes compatibility. Here's the terrifying twist. Freedom hasn't been taken away. It's been redefined. You're still allowed to choose, as long as your choices are compatible with the system. You can speak, but only if the algorithm favors your tone. You can search, but only within the echo chamber it built for you. You can resist, but only in ways that feed your data back into the machine. You are allowed to be free, as long as your freedom is profitable. Consent without awareness is not freedom. Imagine signing a contract you never read, agreeing to terms you never saw, handing over your thoughts, feelings, identity simply because you clicked yes to stay connected. That's not consent. That's coercion by design. That's compliance disguised as convenience. And the worst part, you didn't just give up your privacy. You gave up the conditions that make real choice possible. Because true free will requires awareness. It requires space to think, question, reflect. And this system, it gives you none of that. You can't be free if you're always reacting. Free will doesn't exist in a state of constant stimulation.
when every second is filled with notifications, suggestions, interruptions, there is no space to pause, no silence to hear your own voice, no stillness to separate your mind from the noise. You're not thinking, you're responding. You're not deciding, you're deflecting. You're not living intentionally, you're functioning habitually. And habit, in a world designed to exploit it, is not freedom. It's captivity dressed in familiarity. Freedom requires friction. Here's the paradox. Real freedom is uncomfortable. It requires effort. It demands introspection. It asks you to pause before reacting, to question before accepting, to suffer the uncertainty of not knowing rather than surrender to the ease of being told. But the system doesn't want that. Friction reduces engagement. Uncertainty slows the click. Reflection is unprofitable. So it removes the struggle. It smooths every edge. It gives you what feels right, not what is right. And in doing so, it replaces your freedom with ease and calls it progress. The quietest prisons have no walls. There are no fences around your mind, no visible chains, no warden whispering in your ear. Only suggestions, only convenience, only content so perfectly aligned with your existing beliefs that you never even noticed you stopped thinking for yourself. And that's how free will dies. Not in a scream, but in a whisper, a scroll, a click, a recommendation. So, are you free? Or have you just gotten comfortable inside a system that thinks for you?
Echo chambers and cognitive narrowing. Truth used to be something you sought, something you struggled toward, a horizon beyond your current understanding. Now, truth has been personalized, customized, packaged in your favorite colors, your preferred tone, and your emotional comfort zone. And that's not truth. That's an echo. When everything you see agrees with you, you open your feed and it feels right. Articles that confirm your opinions, videos that reinforce your values, voices that validate your frustration, your dreams, your fears. You feel seen. You feel understood. But what you don't feel is challenged. That's by design. Because the system doesn't want your discomfort. It wants your engagement. And nothing drives engagement like familiarity. So it surrounds you with mirrors until you believe the reflection is the entire world. The algorithm rewards certainty, punishes complexity. In a diverse, open society, you should encounter contradiction. You should hear opposing views. You should wrestle with ideas that unsettle you. But those moments create friction. They make people pause, leave, close the app. So the algorithm does something dangerously clever. It removes the friction. It reduces your cognitive load. It shows you what fits your model of reality over and over again until that model becomes a prison. You become less curious, less open, less nuanced. Because you're no longer asked to think, you're trained to agree. The illusion of being well-informed. You read the news, you watch the commentary, you feel up to date, you feel informed. But if all your sources align perfectly with your beliefs, you're not informed, you're insulated. You don't know the world. You know your version of the world, a version curated by systems that feed you what keeps you comfortable, not what keeps you conscious. And over time,
your intellectual flexibility shrinks. Your mental range narrows. You start to confuse exposure with understanding. And that is where ignorance hides best, in the illusion of knowledge. Cognitive narrowing is a silent collapse. Cognitive narrowing isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It doesn't warn you. It happens quietly, as the unfamiliar disappears, as the uncomfortable fades away, as your world becomes simpler, smaller, more predictable. And before you realize it, you've stopped asking the deeper questions, stopped listening to different voices, stopped exploring beyond your algorithmically approved sandbox. You think you've found your truth, but what you've really found is your boundary. Echo chambers radicalize your certainty. The more you hear your beliefs echoed, the more you believe they're universal. The more you see opposing ideas ridiculed or hidden, the more you believe they're dangerous. You become more sure, more rigid, more emotionally attached to what you believe. Not because your ideas are better, but because you've stopped being exposed to any alternative. This is how extremism thrives. This is how tribalism spreads. Not through force, but through curation. You don't need censorship to lose freedom of thought. You just need enough personalization. The death of nuance. In echo chambers, there is no room for maybe, no space for contradiction, no patience for complexity. Everything becomes binary, right or wrong, us or them, good or evil. And the algorithm loves it because strong emotions drive engagement, and binary thinking triggers stronger reactions than gray areas ever could. So the system amplifies certainty and silences subtlety, until your entire mental landscape becomes a cartoon version of reality, one where empathy guides, dialogue collapses, and truth becomes a tool, not a pursuit. Personal truth is not universal truth. You're told to speak your truth, to live your truth, to find your tribe. And there's power in that. But when every person lives inside their own curated reality, truth itself begins to fracture. We no longer argue about facts. We argue from different realities. And when reality becomes fragmented, cohesion becomes impossible. Society becomes a battlefield of isolated echo chambers, each convinced of its own righteousness, each unable to hear the others. So ask yourself, when was the last time you truly changed your mind? When was the last time you sat with an idea you hated and tried to understand it, without needing to destroy it? If you can't remember, you're not alone. That's the point. Because in the age of algorithmic comfort, critical thinking isn't forbidden. It's simply no longer necessary. Voting, buying, believing, all engineered. You cast a vote, you buy a product, you form an opinion, and you believe deeply that all of those things were your decision. But what if they weren't? What if the way you think, shop, act, and vote has already been shaped by forces you can't see, through systems you can't control, driven by algorithms that were never designed to protect your freedom, only to maximize your predictability? Your behavior is not just tracked, it's guided. It doesn't take a conspiracy to control people. It just takes data, enough of it, across time, connected to emotion, run through a machine that can detect patterns you don't even know you have. And once that machine understands you, truly understands you,
It doesn't have to push. It only has to nudge. And that nudge can make you click, share, buy, vote, hate, obey, without ever realizing you've been touched. Political beliefs can be manufactured, one scroll at a time. You think you support a cause because you believe in it. But beliefs aren't formed in a vacuum. They're formed through repetition, through curated exposure, through identity reinforcement. And algorithms are masters of that. They show you stories that confirm your fears, comments that amplify your outrage, images that associate your side with virtue and the other side with danger. And the result? You become more certain, more reactive, more emotionally bound to your side, even if you can't remember how you chose it. You didn't decide. You were shaped. Your vote was predicted before you even made it. During elections, your attention becomes political capital. Your emotional profile becomes a tool. Cambridge Analytica was only the beginning. With enough data, platforms can predict with alarming accuracy who you'll vote for, when you're most persuadable, what issue will flip your stance, what message will make you stay home. And in some cases, they don't even need to convince you to vote for someone. They just need to convince you not to vote at all. That's how elections are won. That's how democracy is quietly rewritten, not with fraud, but with influence. Invisible, legal, effective. Consumerism is no longer about need, it's about emotional engineering. You don't buy products anymore. You buy identities. You buy belonging. You buy emotional relief. And platforms know that. They don't market a phone. They market a lifestyle. They don't sell skincare. They sell the promise of self-love. They don't sell shoes. They sell the feeling of being accepted by your tribe, your feed, your algorithmic family. Because when your emotion can be mined, your wallet can be opened on command. Impulse buying is no longer impulsive. It's orchestrated. You think it was random, that late-night purchase, that product you didn't even know you wanted. But the system knew. It knew your stress level, your search history, your emotional state. And it waited until your resistance was low, your desire was high, and your screen became the doorway to relief. This isn't shopping. This is psychological architecture. And you're walking through it, thinking it was your idea all along. Faith, identity, and worldview curated like content. Even your spiritual beliefs aren't safe. In an age of endless recommendations, you don't find faith. Faith finds you. Delivered by influencers, wrapped in aesthetic, packaged in short form, bite-sized, emotionally charged clips designed to give you not revelation, but dopamine. You start to follow a philosophy, a movement, a truth. But what if that path was never discovered, just delivered? What if you didn't believe it because it was right, but because it was shown to you at the exact right moment when you were most vulnerable to it? Freedom of choice becomes an illusion of control. The most dangerous kind of control is the kind that feels like freedom. You believe you're choosing, but every choice has been predicted, suggested, framed, optimized. And when you're voting in echo chambers, buying in feedback loops, and believing in algorithm-approved truths, you're not exercising freedom,
You're executing a program. They didn't have to take your mind. They just had to surround it, shape it, reward it, and then let you do the rest. Escaping the digital cage. The walls aren't made of concrete. They're made of content. The bars aren't forged in steel. They're shaped by comfort, by convenience, by distraction. You're not locked in by force. You're kept inside by design, by a system that knows how to keep you scrolling, watching, buying, believing, without ever questioning. But if you can see the cage, you can start to leave it. Step 1. Recognize the architecture. Before you can escape, you have to name what you're trapped in. And this isn't just about screen time. It's about mental ownership. Ask yourself, when you wake up, what's the first thing that enters your mind? Your thoughts or the algorithm's suggestions? When you feel anxious, what do you reach for? Introspection or digital noise? When you believe something deeply, can you trace its roots, or has it simply always been there? To escape the cage, you must first see the bars. You must realize you are not just a user of platforms, you are being used. Step 2. Interrupt the loop. The system runs on habit, on repetition, on unconscious momentum. The greatest threat to that system? A pause. Not a full break, not a dramatic exit, just a moment, a breath, a hesitation before the next click, a decision not to open the app just because you're bored. These moments are small, but they are acts of rebellion because they reintroduce what the system fears most: consciousness. Step 3. Embrace intentional discomfort. Freedom doesn't feel like ease, it feels like friction. When you try to unplug, your body might resist. Your fingers will twitch. Your brain will itch for dopamine. You'll feel lost, restless, even afraid. That's not a sign to go back. It's proof that the cage was real. Because addiction to the feed is not a failure of willpower. It's the intended outcome of a billion-dollar industry. Escaping it will hurt, but discomfort is the price of re-entry into your own mind. Step 4. Cultivate slow thinking. Not all thought is equal. There's reactive thought, fast, impulsive, triggered, and then there's reflective thought, slow, intentional, sovereign. The system thrives on the first. You reclaim power with the second. That means reading long-form content, journaling before reacting, asking yourself, why do I believe this, before defending it online? Letting silence be enough, even when your phone begs for attention. The deeper you go into your own mind, the less control the outside world has over it. Step 6. Rebuild your identity offline. You are more than your feed, more than your follows, more than your digital shadow. But you can't remember that if you don't leave the noise long enough to hear your inner voice. Reconnect with things that don't need to be recorded. Walk without your phone. Think without music. Experience boredom without fixing it. Create something no one else will ever see. These acts may seem trivial, but they are sacred in a world of monetized attention. They are reminders that your value is not in your data, it's in your being. Step 7. Curate your input like your life depends on it, because it does. You don't have to abandon technology, but you must treat it as a tool, not a default setting. Ask, does this content challenge me or just comfort me? Does this creator provoke thought or provoke fear? Am I expanding or just confirming? Start curating your mind the way you curate your home. Clean it, protect it, don't let everything in, and learn to sit with the mess that arises when you remove the noise, because it's in the quiet that your real self starts speaking again. Step 8. Return to meaning, not metrics. You are not a brand. You are not a product. You are not here to perform for algorithms or prove your existence through analytics. You are here to feel, to think deeply, to love truly, to live consciously. When you stop asking, "What will this post get?" and start asking, "What does this moment mean?" you begin the great return, back to a mind that is yours. This is how the escape begins, not with a big leap, but with small radical acts of awareness. Because once you realize that the cage was never locked, you'll understand that freedom is not something you're given. It's something you choose every day, with every thought.
Reclaiming thought sovereignty. You can be free, but first, you must reclaim your mind. Not just escape distraction, not just reduce screen time, but stand up inside your own consciousness and say with conviction, "These thoughts are mine. This attention is mine. This identity, this being, belongs to no machine, no feed, no system but me." That is thought sovereignty. And in the age of influence, it is the ultimate act of rebellion. What is sovereignty of thought? It's not just about privacy. It's not just about thinking differently. It's about thinking deliberately. It means knowing where your beliefs come from, recognizing when your emotions are being hijacked, resisting the urge to follow every digital breadcrumb, creating mental space that no system can monetize. Thought sovereignty is the refusal to let your consciousness become infrastructure for someone else's profit. It's not isolation, it's ownership. Your mind is a territory. Defend it. Imagine your thoughts like a landscape. Some areas are wide open. Some are hidden. Some are wild, unexplored. But now imagine that over the years, strangers have come in, set up signs, built roads, laid surveillance wires through your imagination. They've mapped it, tagged it, and made it theirs without you ever noticing. Reclaiming sovereignty means walking that territory again and taking down every piece that doesn't belong to you. Every belief that was implanted, every fear that was marketed, every truth that was never yours to begin with. Think before you believe. Pause before you absorb. Every time you encounter a new idea, you face a choice. Accept it passively because it feels familiar, safe, or popular. Or examine it actively because you value truth over comfort. Sovereign thinkers are slow believers, not cynical, critical, not closed, intentional. Because belief is sacred, and in the wrong hands, it becomes a weapon. Guard your attention like it's sacred. In the digital world, attention is currency, but in the human world, attention is connection to others, to truth, to self.
The more fragmented your focus becomes, the easier it is for systems to fill in the blanks. But when you concentrate, when you hold your attention with full presence, the noise recedes, and what remains is you. That space is where insight lives. That stillness is where wisdom returns. Speak with your own voice, even if it trembles. In a world of echo chambers, finding your voice is hard. Keeping it is harder. You will be misunderstood. You will be called extreme or naive. You will feel the pull to soften your truth for likes or edit your convictions for validation. Don't. Because your voice, raw, reflective, real, is the only thing that cannot be replicated by an algorithm. Speak it, even if it's slow, even if it's messy, even if no one listens at first, because in reclaiming your voice, you reclaim your identity. Create before you consume. The sovereign mind is not reactive, it is generative. It builds, it imagines, it questions, it creates. Don't just scroll, write, draw, build, speak, dance, invent. The moment you create something that didn't exist before, you remind the world and yourself that you are more than a product of input. You are a source of origin. Think beyond the algorithm's edge. The algorithm is a map, but you are the terrain. There are thoughts it cannot reach, questions it cannot answer, mysteries it cannot touch. Go there. Read philosophy that's uncomfortable. Explore ideas from the other side. Walk in silence long enough to hear what's underneath your thoughts. That is where freedom lives. Not in confirmation, not in personalization, but in exploration. Sovereignty is not a destination, it is a practice. You will forget. You will fall back into the loop again. You will be pulled by the glow of the feed again. That's okay. Sovereignty isn't about perfection, it's about return. Over and over again, you pause, you step back, you reflect. You ask, is this truly mine? Is this belief born from truth or from programming? Is this thought aligned with who I am or who I've been trained to be? And in asking, you step back into ownership. You were not made to be predictable. You were not made to be sold. You were not made to be optimized. You were made to be conscious, to think freely, to live deliberately, to be sovereign within. The silent war for your mind. This is not a war of bombs, not of bullets, not of soldiers. It's a war of influence, a war of invisible hands, a war of shaping what you see, feel, believe, without you ever knowing it happened. This is the silent war for your mind, and it's already happening. The battleground is your attention. Every moment you are awake, someone is trying to claim a piece of your mind. Your screen pings, your feed refreshes, your apps whisper, look here, care about this, fear this, buy this, be this. And most of the time, you obey without knowing you've surrendered. But surrender doesn't feel like war when the weapons are beautiful, entertaining, and personalized. That's how this war works. Not by attacking you, but by convincing you it's safe. No army, no uniforms, just systems and code. There is no general, no flag, no battlefield. Just algorithms optimizing for attention, interfaces designed to addict, business models built on behavioral extraction, platforms competing for your soul by calling it engagement. You are not being invaded violently, you are being redesigned quietly, and the cost is not visible until it's too late. The goal is not destruction, it's obedience. The system doesn't want to kill you, it wants you alive, online, addicted, predictable. It doesn't care what you believe, as long as what you believe can be monetized, as long as what you believe keeps you within its ecosystem. You are not a threat when you are distracted. You are not dangerous when you're emotionally reactive. You are not revolutionary when you're addicted to comfort. And that is the victory the system seeks. Not conquest, but compliance. The signs of war are everywhere once you know where to look. They're in the way you check your phone before you breathe in the morning, in the way you feel anxious in silence, in the way you panic when the signal drops, in the way your opinions harden after one viral clip, in the way you forget what you used to dream about before the feed started dreaming for you. This isn't a glitch. It's the system working exactly as designed. And you are the target. Your thoughts, your feelings, your decisions, your destiny. And yet, there is still hope. Because the war is silent, but so is the revolution. It doesn't begin with violence. It begins with awareness. With a pause, a question, a refusal. You don't have to destroy the machine. You just have to stop believing it's you. The moment you see the system for what it is, not a tool, but a trap, you begin to unplug from its power. And in that moment, you begin to win. This is the final frontier of freedom. Not land, not speech, not even privacy. It's thought. Your ability to think freely, to know yourself without influence, to dream without algorithmic permission, to believe without being told what belief should look like. That is what's under attack. That is what's being sold. That is what's worth protecting at any cost. Because if they own your mind, they own you. You are not just a consumer. You are not just a user. You are not just data. You are a sovereign consciousness, capable of awareness, capable of resistance, capable of choosing what no machine can predict. But only if you wake up. Because the war is real. The war is here. And the first casualty is always the one who never knew they were in it. Choose to reclaim your mind, not once, but every day, with every scroll you resist, every thought you examine, every emotion you refuse to sell, every moment of silence you protect. This is not about going backward, it's about going inward. Because the future does not belong to those who are most connected. It belongs to those who are most conscious. And that can still be you.